Good evening, everyone. We're here for a special meeting. It's Tuesday, January 25th at 5:30 p.m. If I could call the board secretary, if he's present, to call roll. I don't see Pastor Spriggs present. Is he present, Mr. Parker?
Chair Youngflesh, I don't see him, so allow me to call the roll, please.
Thank you.
Chair Youngflesh,
Present.
Vice Chair Delaney,
Present.
Secretary Spriggs, Ms. Domingos, Ms. Keen-Ayub, Ms. Kenk,
Here.
Ms. Pintar,
Present.
Mr. Ware,
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Chair Youngflesh, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're here tonight for only one agenda item, and that's to schedule a date and time for the CLERB Town Hall pertaining to the Center for Policing Equity Report commissioned by the San Diego Sheriff's Department. Before we proceed with discussing a date and time, Mr. Parker, do we have any public comment on this agenda item?
We have two requests to speak at this time, and also I'm getting a notification from Ms. Domingos that she's having some issues logging on. If you could allow me about 30 seconds to ensure that she has the correct link, and then I will call the request of the speakers.
Sure, that would be great. And just so the speakers are aware that their comments should be limited to the agenda item only as far as the date and time for the CLERB Town Hall.
Chair Youngflesh, thank you for your patience. I'm still not finished. Please allow me another 30 seconds.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, Chair Youngflesh, my apologies for my delay. I'm technologically incompetent at times, but I think I've sent her the correct link. So at this point, we will go to Professor or Dr. Fishman. Dr. Fishman, are you there?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Glad you're having this meeting. And I just want to add, for doing this town hall, I would just fully suggest, since we've worked together and we've co-sponsored an event for the Racial Justice Coalition and North County Equity and Justice Coalition, that we do it again. And I've talked to CPE, they're willing to be a part of it too, and speak directly to the report. So I wanted to put that out there. We can certainly help bring the community, have them attend and support it like we've done in the past, and it'll strengthen the CLERB standing with the community buy-in and support at the meeting. And so we want to help connect those dots and play a role in it. And that would be our proposal and our offer to work with you guys on doing the town hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Robin Sales. Ms. Sales, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Now's the time to hold a town hall in conjunction with the Racial Justice and North County Equity and Justice Coalitions to do a deep dive into the impact of bias policing by the Sheriff's Department. The CPE report clearly shows how people of color are targeted with traffic stops, so-called broken windows violations, use of force, and unequal treatment under the law. Per Campaign Zero, and I quote, a decades-long focus on policing minor crimes and activities, a practice called broken windows policing, has led to the criminalization and over-policing of communities of color and excessive force in otherwise harmless situations. Did you know that nationwide, only 5% of all arrests made in 2018 involved alleged violent crimes, and only 4% of what police spend their time doing overall involves enforcing violent crime? Pretext stops, which occur at a disproportionate rate for Black and brown folks in our community and who are less likely to have contraband in their vehicles than white people, lead to unnecessary arrests and incarcerations, destroying families and communities. The sheriff can dispute the findings of the CPE, just as he did with Campaign Zero report, but that does nothing to change the data and the egregious behavior within that department. Our goal in both of these organizations is to prevent the destruction of whole communities and to push the Sheriff's Department to undergo a culture change. Ultimately, our Saving Lives in Custody campaign's goal is to prevent deaths in custody. While we wait for the Joint Legislative Committee report, it's important for this board to be proactive in investigating these biases and to make public recommendations to the outgoing and incoming administration. The town hall is a first step in this process, and I thank the CLERB for its willingness to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Yusuf Miller. Yusuf Miller, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead and give it a shot, sir.
Hello, everyone. I'm Yusuf Miller with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition and the Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego. And I would like to echo the two previous speakers. And I would like to suggest a late February town hall in the evening to give the community opportunity to get off work, the people who are affected by it, to attend and learn what this process is all about and what the report is actually saying. A partnership with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Racial Justice Coalition, and the CPE will help bring those communities to this important town hall, because we don't want to be speaking to the wind. We don't want to be speaking to the choir. We need the community to understand what this report is saying and what does it mean to them in their everyday lives when it relates to the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we will go to Clovis Honore. Are you there?
I am there. If you can hear me, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Your time starts now.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for, I did not do a request to speak, so I thank you for recognizing my hand. Thank you, CLERB, for the opportunity to do what you're doing, the town hall. I think it's a brilliant idea. I am also a member of the Racial Justice Coalition, so I will echo what has been said by the previous three speakers. But and I want to also echo what Brother Miller just said in terms of making sure that this event is accessible as possible to the communities most affected, as we call them in many instances, communities of concern. I want to throw Thursday out there just as an idea. As a Baptist preacher, I know that a lot of Black folk are in Bible study on Wednesday, and of course, you know, Sunday is like the day not to touch. Monday is a tired day for a lot, and pastors take Mondays off. So I'm just throwing Thursday out there as an option. And as Brother Miller said, late in February would be better than earlier, giving enough folks in the community time to make plans to participate in an evening meeting. Weekends tend to be busy for working folk like me. So I'm gonna say Thursday again. Thank you so much.
And thank you. At this point, Chair Youngflesh, I do not have any other requests to speak, and I do not see any other hands raised.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. And with that, I'd open the floor to discussion and any suggestions for dates and times for this town hall. I know that this was brought up by the ad hoc committee. I was wondering if they had, and I see Ms. Domingos does have her hand up. So if they have a suggestion as far as a date and time, and then after Ms. Domingos, Ms. King has her hand up as well.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding suggestions, date and time, we had spoken ad nauseam and we were looking at Tuesday, February 1st, so 7 days from today. And we were thinking 5:30 because that is typically the time we have our meetings, and that'll enable community members to join after work. And also, I also would like to also suggest, we have had different organizations that we had a whole long list that we had shared with Mr. Parker and the ad hoc committee as well. But I'm also, if we want to discuss further regarding the agenda item, as having key community organizations like North County Equity and Justice Coalition or Racial Justice Coalition being a partnership with CLERB to host this meeting. That would be something that I would be in favor of. And I leave that to the other members of the ad hoc committee to chime in, if Madam Chair so pleases.
Thank you, Ms. Domingos. Prior to going to Ms. King, I would ask Ms. Hoffman's direction as to whether we can even discuss that, because the agendized item was just to schedule a date and time.
Your board can discuss any item related to the town hall,
Okay.
not limited to the scheduling.
Okay. Moving on to Ms. Kank and then Vice Chair Delaney. Ms. Kank?
Sorry, what Ms. Domingo said. I got nothing further.
Okay. Vice Chair Delaney?
Yes, I want to thank the ad hoc committee for their hard work. I know that they've been working really diligently on this. You know, I'm all for a town hall meeting. I'm all in. I think that the report raises many important issues and questions. CLERB has discussed previously, I think in December, the CPE report, and we did notice that the response from the Sheriff's Department did not contain a plan or proposed action to address the racial disparity concerns that were identified in the report. As a result, we proactively have sent, at the direction of the board, a letter dated January 3rd, 2022 to San Diego Sheriff's Department, requesting that they provide CLERB within 60 days or present at our March 8th meeting, I believe it was, a plan or detail the actions it'll take to address racial disparity concerns. So again, a town hall meeting is important, but I also think it's equally important to listen and to hear what the response from the Sheriff's Department says prior to holding that town hall meeting. We can then know what the Sheriff's Department's proposed actions and plans are. And based on this information, CLERB and the public can weigh in, and we can offer our input, our good things, our what we think is good, what we think needs work at that particular town hall meeting. And again, also I have some numerous questions for the CPE authors. So again, I would suggest that we wait till we hear the response from the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Delaney. And then I see Mr. Ware, then Ms. Kank and Ms. Domingos. Mr. Ware.
Oh, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to echo, I believe one of my colleagues talked about having one or a few of those groups to partner with this. This is what it's all about. It's all about the community and transparency. So however we can partner and get as many voices out there as possible, united voices as possible, that's awesome. And so I'm looking forward to partnering with anybody, any group from the community that has the same mindset as how can we rectify this, how can we change this process that's happening right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. Ms. Kank?
I would like to hear from the community before we move forward on this whole thing as to what they think should happen and how they think it should happen. I think that's the most important thing for right now. And then we might, after the response comes, we might have another town hall.
Ms. Domingos?
Yeah, thank you. So we have been meeting with the ad hoc committee for several weeks. And the main goal for this town hall, and the reason why we had, unanimously decided to have it on the 1st, is to give the public a space to, voice their concerns. And so regardless of what the sheriff's department will add or might have to say about that, the main goal for this community meeting is for the main goal for the town hall is for the community to be able to speak up and speak out and do so in a safe space, and in the hope that CLERB will be, the driving force behind that safe space for the community to come out and speak out. So it's not attached necessarily to what the sheriff's department has in response, but it's definitely triggered by the CPE report. And this we had discussed ad nauseum at our meetings.
Thank you. Ms. Pintar?
Hi, thank you. I just have a question maybe for Cherie. What does the partnering with a nonprofit organization look like? Is that something we are allowed to do? Does that mean that they are like co-sponsors of the town hall? Does it just mean that are they presenters, or they help us get the word out? I'm supportive, very much supportive of hosting a town hall. I just want to know what that looks like. I know, at least in my job as a government agency, we're not allowed to partner with nonprofits. So I just want to make sure that I understand what that looks like.
Thank you. I was going to chime in about that. We have some concerns that would go beyond CLERB's charter to sponsor a town hall with another agency. Certainly, CLERB can do outreach to other agencies and organizations to get more public participation, but we'd caution against any sort of partnering or official sponsorship with another organization. And then along those lines, and we can discuss this later during the meeting, but we'll need to have a better understanding of the structure of the town hall if a quorum of CLERB is going to be participating, because we'd have to notice it as a public meeting under the Brown Act.
Can I just ask a follow-up?
Sure.
If we cannot have a technical official co-sponsor to the town hall, what role could interested nonprofits play? I mean, I presume, one, obviously they can get the word out and invite their members and provide public testimony. What else would we be allowed to do to make sure everybody feels like they are a part of it?
I'm open to suggestions and ideas of other board members of what that would look like, and we can sort of determine that on a case-by-case basis. But I would imagine opportunity for public comment, maybe a longer time period than would typically be allowed in a regular CLERB meeting. Some dialogue if the board was interested in that, as opposed to just taking in public comment.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions, Ms. Pintar?
No, thank you.
Ms. Domingos and then Ms. Kank. Ms. Domingos.
Yeah, thank you. If my memory serves me right, the CLERB, or very vividly, I remember Mr. Paul Parker has actually partnered with organizations. I believe it was the fall or the summer of last year. Don't quote me on the date, where community grassroots organizations were co-sponsoring an event, and CLERB actually, I was one of the community members at the meeting. So it was co-sponsored by 2 community organizations, or at least one. And Mr. Parker was actually addressing the public and educating everybody about the duties and responsibilities of CLERB. And I remember certain CLERB board members that attended that meeting. And I say all that to say that from my past experience with that meeting, they were on the level, from my understanding at the time as an outsider, on the level of co-sponsor, and the other community organization brought in people like family members, and Mr. Parker actually had this whole beautiful PowerPoint presentation where he actually educated the public about what CLERB was about, and how CLERB was there to serve the community. So this is the same idea that we're trying to reproduce, but this is now focused around the CPE report. I don't think we're trying to create something that has never been done before by the CLERB.
Ms. Kank, I see your hand up, but I believe Mr. Parker wants to respond. And I'm sorry, Ms. Domingos, were you still speaking?
That is it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Parker?
Yeah, what happened was last year, it was March 23rd of last year, I believe it was the Racial Justice Coalition, Stand Up for Racial Justice North County, sponsored a town hall in which CLERB was going to be the subject of the town hall. So that when asked if I would appear and speak, absolutely. And that's exactly what I did on behalf of the CLERB. 2 board members showed up to also weigh in, but that's where we were with that. As far as co-sponsoring, CLERB did not. It was very difficult, quite frankly, and we didn't do it. We did not publicize it. It was because it wasn't ours, so to speak. It was the outside entities. So it was difficult to move forward to publicize it on our own, which is why we were very thankful that we had those outside entities. Number one, take the initiative to make it happen. Number 2, publicize it. Basically made it easy for me just to show up and answer the questions and make the presentation. So that's a clarification of what happened last year, as opposed to what you folks are talking about for this year.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Ms. Kank?
I originally approached Mr. Parker about having a town hall when we were at the NACOL conference in December, because I felt that it was really important that we are able to respond to the community's requests and for information and, their concerns about what we do and how we do it. And I felt that that was very important, that CLERB was the host. As to Ms. Pintar's request or question, I think not partnering with nonprofits, but having them help us get the word out that we're having a town hall. I think that's what we need to do. And it will give them a little bit of not sponsorship, but participation in what we do and how we go about doing it. And I really think it's very important that we do this and that we do it as sooner than later.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
To kind of piggyback on Ms. Kank's statements, look, as you know, many of the people that show up at our meetings, but let me back up. As far as the co-sponsoring, I've already told members of the community that I appreciate the effort or the option to do so. I don't agree with it, not because I don't believe with what's going on. Obviously we do. I just think it would be better if we showed our independence, hosted this thing ourselves, but those other entities that we're talking about, we already have a list of people that we're going to be asking to show, and they're going to do the outreach as well, and they're going to be present. And quite frankly, if you look back on the last year's worth of CLERB meetings, who's present? It's those groups, and so they're going to get the word out. They do a great job of doing so. I just think as far as CLERB moving forward, we need to host this ourselves and have all those other groups and interested parties attend.
Thank you. Ms. Domingos, your hand is still up. Did you have further comment?
Yeah, I guess what I'm really confused about was actually that meeting, and thank you for correcting me on the date, Mr. Parker. What really attracted me to that meeting was because I saw on the flyer CLERB to co-host. So for me on the flyer, it indicated that CLERB was co-hosting this meeting with these other organizations, and the executive director of CLERB was empowered by the board to address the public. And that's why a lot of us showed up. So now I'm hearing there was either a mistake on the flyer or there was some misunderstanding or miscommunication, because it said clearly on that flyer, and I can share it, that CLERB was co-hosting.
And Mr. Parker, I see your hand, but I also see Ms. Hoffman's, and I'm wondering if she wants to respond to this specifically.
Thank you. Yes. So this goes back to the question I asked of what the town hall would look like. So one key difference with what Ms. Domingos was bringing up is that was Paul acting as executive officer on behalf of CLERB. It wasn't CLERB as a board. So that would be a difference there. And if that's what's being discussed, I mean, there hasn't been a motion, so I don't know what's on the table as far as what the town hall would look like. If it's Paul hosting it, that would be different than CLERB as a board. Hosting it as a special meeting or something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
That Sherry took the words out of my mouth. I mean, it was me. I went and represented CLERB at that town hall. And to me, it didn't matter if it's a co-host or not. I was going to be there. I was going to speak and represent the CLERB to the best of my ability, because that's what the public needed. That's what the public wanted. And that was the right thing to do. And I do it again.
Thank you. And then I believe it was Mr. Ware and then Ms. Pintar, but I know they've been a while. So Mr. Ware?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify my statement in regards to partnering with organizations. What I really meant is that I don't want anybody to feel that they're not part of this town hall. But if Ms. Hoffman is saying that that's not what we can't do officially, I'm fine with that. I just want to clarify that we welcome the involvement. And I also believe what Ms. Kink and Ms. Domingo said, as far as February 1st or as soon as possible, I believe we need to make that happen as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pintar.
I would like to ask my colleagues that were on the ad hoc committee if they had considered what the agenda might look like. Is that something we can discuss here? So we know, could we have a special presentation from the North County Racial Justice Coalition, for example? I know that in the past when in my work, organizations have asked us to co-host something or co-sponsor something. What has happened is the organizations co-host, sponsored the event, put the event on, and then the representative or the official government person might be like the featured guest. So I know that sometimes that's super confusing, but if we were the host, and assuming that we cannot have a co-sponsor or a co-host, what could we do to make sure that the people who are at these meetings on a regular basis, which is the Racial Justice Coalition, feel like they have a role to play? And again, I think one of the suggestions was a longer presentation time, a longer organized testimony. I wanted to start that discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Pintar. And Ms. Domingos.
I do have a question for our counsel, Ms. Hoffman. So I don't know if I should wait until Ms. Pintar's point is addressed, or.
I think it's sort of an open discussion. So I feel like you can go ahead and ask Ms. Hoffman, and then if people want to chime into any of the topics we're discussing,
Sure.
they can.
Okay, so my question is, I just want to make sure I understand. So if CLERB as a board is host of a town hall, we cannot have co-sponsors. But if we empower Mr. Parker to speak on behalf of the CLERB, they can have co-sponsors. Is that correct? Or did I misunderstand you?
That's correct. I believe that's what I said. We need to look a little bit further into, I don't know that I said that CLERB cannot co-sponsor. We just have some concerns about that going beyond CLERB's charter and how that would work under the Brown Act. So that's something we need to look at a little bit more carefully.
Oh, so it is a possibility that CLERB can co-sponsor, but we have to make sure that we adhere to certain rules and regulations of the Brown Act.
It might be that it's not possible. I don't have the answer right now. We're just cautioning against it as we look into it. One option is to set the date and time, and Aurelia and I can continue looking into it, and those details can be worked out before the town hall takes place.
Ms. Hoffman, my one concern though, is that if the board is talking about February 1st date, which is next week, I believe, or
yeah, next
right?
week Tuesday.
Yeah, and so I mean, is that going to allow for enough time? Because what I'm hearing is if the board wants to coordinate with other organizations, I'm not sure if that would be even possible. I could be wrong, but
I mean, we have, so the ad hoc committee, one thing we have done is we did do our homework. So we actually went down and wrote down a list of organizations that we work with or that we know about or know of. We don't necessarily know them personally, but we wrote down that list. We shared it with Mr. Parker. So we have already been doing, you know, organizations that we know are predominantly affected by this issue that show up to the meetings. So we already have that ready to go. So we don't have to go back to the drawing board and figure out who are we going to invite and when. So all we have to do is just press send. That's already ready. An idea for the agenda also, we already spoke about that ad nauseum. And I believe strongly that it's reflected in our minutes. We had everything from key players, key organizations. So we had the key organizations would be organizations of the marginalized communities. So we have been looking at the statistics like Campaign Zero, CPE reports, which are the most marginalized communities. Those are those that will rise to the top. And then the other organizations would be the ally organizations like the, you know, the supporting white ally organizations. They will be a part of, but they will not have center stage as the most marginalized communities. And we have those names and we sent them to Mr. Parker.
Sherry, would that give you enough time though? That's my main concern to research this or look into it.
Yeah,
My
I think
other,
it's enough time.
my other concern being if this is going to be, I guess, structurally, if it's not Mr. Parker and it is a quorum of the board, we would also have an additional time that's needed to notice it as a special meeting as opposed to a town hall. Would that still allow you enough time?
Yeah, the special meeting notice is 24 hours.
Okay. February 1st
So-
is
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday, right? Okay.
So can we already make a motion? Because at least we're talking about the date and time and then the structure. So I would like to make a motion about the date and time. So.
And Sherry, is that something that a motion would be needed, or is it something that can be unilateral, that I can set? Right? Is a motion needed for a date and time?
Yeah, I would advise that it be done by motion.
Okay. And is there any other, I hear that Ms. Domingos has made a motion. She said for the date and time, I assume, Ms. Domingos, that you specifically want February 1st at 5:30 as you referenced. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And
And I believe there's still further discussion. So I do see, and I apologize again, I don't know who raised their hand first, but I see Ms. Pintar and Vice Chair Delaney. Ms. Pintar?
I just want to clarify, if this is noticed as a town hall, it can be noticed as in as short a time frame as 24 hours in advance because it's not an official meeting. Is that correct?
I believe what Ms. Hoffman said, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk over you, is that the special meeting has to have a 24-hour notice. If it's a town hall, it's not under the Brown Act. And so you wouldn't have to have that notice requirement.
Okay.
It's not really about what we call it. If we're going to have a quorum of CLERB attending, it needs to be noticed as a special meeting.
Yeah.
But it could still be called a town hall. We just need to comply with the notice requirements.
Thank you.
And then the agenda would not, there wouldn't be no action items. It would be a town hall in order to hear from the community and give them a forum to make suggestions, comment on the report. But there would be no action because it's a kind of it's taking testimony and listening, correct?
Because it is a noticed meeting, if there is a quorum of CLERB, action could be taken if it's agendized, but it could also be purely to receive testimony.
But it would have to be agendized in advance.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I wanted to make sure that everyone understood that that would be the format and what we could and couldn't do that night.
Yeah, but so speaking for the ad hoc committee, the
Ms. Domingos, I'm sorry to
my
cut
hand
you
was
off,
up.
but
My hand was up.
Ms. Domingos, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Vice Chair Delaney had her hand up for a while and then I'll go to you. Thank you. Vice
Okay.
Chair Delaney.
Yeah, I just, again, I wish we were waiting a little bit. I just don't see the rush, but even more than that, I'm really, really disappointed because I won't be able to attend. I have another meeting that evening. You know, sad about that.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Domingos, please go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say, I didn't realize that Vice Chair Delaney's hand was up. My apologies. What I was trying to say was actually that the main idea for the town hall was to have the community members at the table, give folks a space to voice their concerns. And also, we actually spoke that we were actually going to invite folks from the Sheriff's Department, folks from CPE to also attend that town hall. And it would be like, you know, a public open invitation to whomever wanted to attend, but we wanted to elevate those grassroots organizations. So the main idea was not to take action, was mainly to discuss what was in this report and if any, you know, impacted or marginalized community members wanted to use that space to speak or gain information or gather information, that would be the space to do so, because CLERB, we will be, you know, doing our duty as board to listen to community members speak and give them a platform to speak. So it wasn't to per se, you know, do something other than that for now, for the February 1st.
Thank you.
And I don't see any other hands. Was there any other discussion on the motion that's on the table as far as February 1st at 5:30? Okay, hearing none, is there a second for that date and time?
Seconded.
Seconded by Ms. Kank. And then Mr. Parker, if you wouldn't mind calling roll.
Sure, Chair Youngflesh.
Thank
Chair
you.
Youngflesh. Chair
Yes.
Youngflesh.
Yes.
Vice Chair Delaney.
No.
Ms. Domingos.
Yes.
Ms. Kank.
Yes.
Ms. Pintar.
Yes.
Mr. Ware.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Chair Youngflesh, motion carries 6-1.
Okay. Is there any other discussion that we need to have tonight? I suppose, do we need to determine at this point if it's going to be a need to be noticed as a special meeting, or is that something we can determine later? And I'm addressing this towards council.
I think because we can't confirm at this point whether there will be a quorum, that we should just notice it as a special meeting to cover our bases.
Okay. And then the same for structure. Can structure be determined then at that point, since we are noticing at the special meeting, so any topics will need to be agendized? Okay. Well, is there anything further we need? I'm sorry, I do see a number of hands. Again, I'm not sure who is first. I'll go to Mr. Parker and then Ms. Domingos and then Mr. Ware. Mr. Parker.
I think Ms. Domingos may have been first, and then Mr. Ware, and then myself.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Parker.
I just have a stupid question for council. So we notice this as a special meeting, and then what happens if we don't get a quorum? Can we move forward with the town hall?
I believe so. Let me confirm that. So no action could be taken.
Okay,
Let me look it up.
Okay.
all right.
What
While
is
she's looking it up, Chair Youngflesh, I'll turn that back over to you. And I think Ms. Domingos was next.
Right, Ms. Domingos, thank you.
Yes, so regarding the structure, are you saying that after we conclude this meeting, we can still agree upon the structure of the meeting, or am I totally confused?
My understanding, as I understand it, and council's probably doing something else at this point, but I'm sure she's listening, is that it can be an agenda can determine what the structure is later, so it'll be noticed like a regular meeting. So we don't have to determine the structure at this point. It's just if it's noticed as a special meeting, then it'll have to be similar to our meetings where anything you talk about as far as items will need to be agendized. Does that answer your question?
Yes, so provided we have quorum, correct?
I believe that's what Ms. Hoffman's looking up right now. So yes, but it would have to be quorum if it is any action items would be taken, but I think she'll follow up with that. And then Mr. Ware and Ms. King, if you're done, Ms. Domingos, was that?
Thank you,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Ware?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I just wanted to applaud my my fellow board members because I've been on a lot of boards, I've been on a lot of committees, and you guys are once again serving that we are a board of action and not a board just to meet. And I just want to applaud you, and I thank you guys for being aggressive, but also being appropriate in how we address these issues with an idea and with a heart of changing our community and our culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kank.
I'm a little confused because I thought when we started this meeting, we were going to have a town hall. We were going to discuss a town hall as opposed to a special meeting.
If I may address it, and again, council, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we still, I think it's semantics at this point. We're just trying to determine the best way to address it, because the issue being, if there's a town hall and there's a quorum of the board members, then it becomes a meeting, and we can't have a quorum of the board members without having agendized and noticed it as a special meeting. Does that make sense?
Okay, that's that. Now you clarified it, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. I'm not seeing any other hands up. Mr. Parker and then Mr. Wilson.
Just real quickly, as there is one other request to speak. I don't know if we want to go back to that or not. I'm sorry. I just noticed that it's over there.
Okay. Ms. Hoffman, I'd ask for your guidance on this.
Public comment is concluded, and I believe that individual has already spoken, but it would be within your board's discretion to allow it or not.
Okay.
And I agree with that, Chair Youngflesh. So it's up to you, ma'am.
Okay, then I would move forward to Mr. Wilson at this point.
Yeah, if permissible, I'd yield to the gentleman who wishes or gentle person who wishes to speak.
I think the point that we've discussed is that it's already been concluded and this person has already spoken during public comment, and so we're continuing our discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson.
I would like to reinforce what Mr. Ware said. I'm extremely happy to see our executive officer and the ad hoc committee and the CLERB itself take action. And we're doing things a little bit different than we've done in the past. And my concern was if we keep doing the things that we did in the past, we'd end up right back where we are now. So I'm very, very happy to see that we're trying to move forward. We are trying to take action, and we're trying to gather as much information as possible. And I'm really heartened by that. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Hoffman?
Thank you for giving me some additional time to research this. So there is a provision under the Brown Act where your board could meet and discuss agendized items that are part of a, let me back up. A quorum of your board could attend a public meeting and discuss matters within your jurisdiction as part of the scheduled program, but cannot discuss it among yourselves separately. If that makes sense. So bottom line, the town hall could be scheduled. It can be publicized. It does not need to be noticed as a public meeting.
Okay, great. And
under
so,
the Brown Act. And so it's doesn't matter if a quorum is there or not. What matters though is that the matters to be discussed must be part of the program for the town hall, and otherwise the CLERB cannot discuss those matters privately or separately.
I have a question about the program then. With the program for the town hall, is that limited to, say, what is publicized as the town hall topics?
Correct.
And then is the same question goes as far as the structure. We can determine the structure after this meeting as far as if it's going to be dealing with other agencies or having other people participate, or do we need to decide everything at this time?
That can take place later. I have fewer legal concerns. It's not going to be a special meeting of CLERB. I will just note under the CLERB rules about the appearance of impartiality and the importance that serves to your board, but that's not a legal issue.
Thank you. Ms. Domingos and then Vice Chair Delaney. Ms. Domingos?
Yeah, my question is, so who sets the topic for the agenda? Because now we have gotten the go-ahead for it to be a town hall. Do we get community input? And if we do, would that be sent out by Mr. Parker, or does the board set the agenda? I'm not just clear where the agenda items are coming from, especially because we are planning to do a town hall to have, community members speak out.
I'm not sure who should answer that question most appropriately, but I believe it would be the board because it's still CLERB's town hall. Mr. Parker or Ms. Hoffman, do you have a different opinion than that? Please share it if you do.
Well, I will defer to council. I mean, I have my thoughts, but I don't want to sound like an idiot either.
Ms. Hoffman?
The clearest path would be for your board to provide direction today on what the topics would be. You could also authorize Paul to put that together.
Okay, so with that, Chair Youngflesh, may I say that I know that the ad hoc committee is meeting tomorrow. Obviously, this is something that's been spurred on by the actions of that committee. We're meeting tomorrow. Why could we not just discuss it at the ad hoc committee, and then they empower me to put the topics together and move forward?
I would agree with that. Good plan, but Ms. Hoffman, would we need a motion for that, or can we just empower Mr. Parker at this time?
I think that's fine as a function of the subcommittee tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Delaney?
Yeah, I have a question. So if I'm understanding this correctly, it does not have to be noticed as a meeting, even if there's a quorum there, but you're going to be discussing a report that we will be discussing at a meeting in March. So how does that not violate the Brown Act?
There's a particular provision of the Brown Act. It's 54952.2. It specifies that it is not considered a meeting under the Brown Act. I can read it to you here.
I guess what I'm saying is you're going to be discussing something that we're going to be discussing at a regular meeting, and there's going to be a quorum there discussing it. So I understand what you're saying about that particular part of the Brown Act. I'm just trying to figure out how you can have a non-noticed meeting with a quorum and discuss something that you're going to discuss at a future meeting.
So
I'm not trying to throw a damp rag on this or anything. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't do anything that's.
Sure, I appreciate the question. Not a problem. So no, we couldn't just have a meeting where that's discussed. The exception here that I'm referring to under the Brown Act is that a majority of CLERB can get together they say at a conference or a similar gathering open to the public. So there are all these parameters that would allow CLERB to discuss these matters outside of a regular or special meeting. So it has to be a meeting or gathering open to the public. And again, those items can only be discussed as part of the scheduled program of the meeting.
And so, Ms. Hoffman, my key takeaway was, though, we cannot discuss it amongst ourselves, correct? It's just at the public meeting.
Correct. So it's part of a panel answering questions maybe, but there should be no side conversations about it.
Okay. Ms. Domingos?
Yeah, so I'm just, I will come back. I just need a moment. 1 second.
Okay, you're the only person pending. I don't see any other hands.
So what I was trying to say was I just need to understand that. So because it's been a little bit of back and forth, I just want to make sure I get it for me. So we are going to move forward with the town hall. It is permitted that we may have a town hall, whether we have quorum or not. And that but the items that are going to be discussed at meetings at the town hall must be agendized, must be part of the agenda to be discussed, or no?
not agendized, but part of the agenda. So to me personally, when I hear agendized, I think of when we have a special meeting or a meeting and there's a set agenda, but it has to be part of what the town hall will discuss as is publicized. And so I think we've discussed giving Paul the authority to structure that after he meets with the ad hoc committee tomorrow.
And so what I just need to understand, one last thing is, so regarding the community groups that wanted to participate at this town hall, is this something that we can do offline, inviting community groups to participate? And the word co-sponsor or partnership, is that something that the clerk cannot do, or is it something that the clerk can do? Because I don't think I quite understood that answer.
Ms. Hoffman, could you address that, please?
I don't see anything that would legally prohibit a co-sponsorship or.
Okay, so are we permitted as the ad hoc committee to discuss this further tomorrow with Mr. Parker and then put out the draft of the town hall and the groups and potential co-sponsors, or is that something that we need permission from our chair to do?
The board tonight could authorize the subcommittee to do that.
I think we talked about that, Sherry, but we determined that a motion wasn't necessarily needed, that we could vest Paul with the authority to do that. Is that correct?
That was for the program piece. I think something rising to the level of a sponsorship might.
Okay, so the program piece can be vested in Paul to take care of. And then the sponsorship piece should be done via motion tonight.
I'd recommend that, yeah.
Okay. Ms. Domingos, do you have any further comment before I move on to the next person?
No, once the next person is done, if nobody wants to make the motion, then I can make that motion.
Ms. Pintar?
I presume, but I don't want to assume incorrectly, this is going to be virtual. Do we need to take any action related to this being virtual or in person? I don't think we talked about that.
That was a good point. I would defer to Ms. Hoffman again.
So, no, nothing would need to be done under the Brown Act or anything like that to allow for virtual, but that is something your board should determine.
Well, since we're under a very tight time frame, I would suggest that we keep it virtual because it just eliminates the logistics of trying to find a location and people trying to find it. And I would suggest that we maintain virtual for this short notice.
So what I'm hearing, and from what Sherry directed, is that we would need a motion to make it virtual. And then I see that Ms. Pintar, since you're recommending it, are you recommending a motion to make this a virtual town hall?
I move to make this a virtual town hall.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, second by Ms. Kank. Mr. Parker, would you please call roll again?
Chair Youngflush,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delaney,
Yes.
Ms. Domingos,
Yes.
Ms. Kank,
Yes.
Ms. Pintar,
Yes.
Mr. Ware,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Chair Youngflush, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And then Ms. Domingos, your hand is still up. Do you have further comment or questions?
Yeah, further, just one last thing. I was wondering, so the vice chair said she would not be able to make February 1st. And we have voted on the motion. I'm very aware of that. But do folks feel that they're under a lot of pressure, or would they need more time, or should we just move forward? That's what I'm just trying to understand.
Well, I'm not sure. And maybe Ms. Hoffman, once the motion carries, it's already been determined. I don't think we can undo the motion, can we? So I'm not sure if it's fruitful to
Need to look it up, but I do believe there's a procedure to rescind a motion or undo the vote.
Vice Chair Delaney.
Yeah, I think you would have to rescind the motion, but you know, Bookie, you guys want to do this, and this is something that you feel is important. Don't worry about me. I'll try to be there virtually, but I have another meeting that I chair that night, and I don't know if I can do it. I'm disappointed. I really want to be there, but I understand. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Is there, I know we're waiting on Ms. Hoffman, but I don't know if it's even needed. Is there any other discussion on that? Mr. Wilson?
In the event that something takes place, whether it's from a legal aspect or logistics or timing wise, could we suggest a backup date or an alternative date as just being prudent and doing our planning and making sure we have backup?
Mr. Wilson, if I can inquire, is your concern that there won't be enough board members or that there might be difficulty coordinating with other organizations? Why? I'm worried that a backup date will just cause further confusion.
No, I'm just saying in case there's some unintended consequences that none of us are aware of right now that might come up, that if we have to meet again and find another date, we have one that we can propose. It's just standard backup.
I'm not seeing any further discussion. Okay, Vice Chair, now I do. Vice Chair Delaney, then Ms. Domingos.
If you want a backup date, I would love for you to change it to the 3rd. Again, please don't make any changes because of me. I'm just kind of saying that, putting it out there.
Thank you, Ms. Domingos.
Yeah, now that Mr. Wilson has spoken, I am aware that we are going to be working with other organizations, and we just went on the assumption that they are going to be available on the 1st. So I very much like the idea of a backup date, probably one at the beginning of the month and probably another one towards the ending of the month, to see, because when we start reaching out to orgs, if we have an overwhelming majority for the ending of the month, that would make more sense, because at the end of the day, we want the people that we are addressing to be at the table. But if we have the overwhelming majority for the 1st, and that's the date that we would go with. So I don't know if that makes any sense or.
So is your suggestion to have just the backup date being 2 backup dates, another one at the beginning and another one at the end of the month? Or I'm not sure if I'm.
No, one. So we voted on the 1st, right? And so like Mr. Wilson had suggested another backup date. Let's assume the majority of organizations that we want at the table go, ugh, we're all booked, we can't do the 1st, but we could do a later date. We can tell them, oh, great, we have a later date. Does this work best for you? So depending on the majority, how much folks we have for which date, that's the date we would have to go with.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification. Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same line, and Mookie articulated it pretty well, because I'm afraid that, once we get the word out, we like the one pastor said, he knows he's busy, he knows his parishioners are busy, he knows other people are busy. So I just want to make sure we've got the capability to respond if there are some unforeseen circumstances where it would make it difficult for the public to participate and interact with us.
So it sounds like there's not necessarily a need to rescind the February 1st date, but that you and Ms. Domingos are discussing a secondary date at the end of February, possibly. But I would need a motion. Well, let me ask Ms. Hoffman first if that's prudent and if that's something we can do. And then I see Vice Chair Delaney and Mr. Wilson, your hand's still up. I don't know if that's intended, but Ms. Hoffman.
If that's the direction your board wants to go in, I'd suggest a motion to have an alternate date for the meeting and to empower either Mr. Parker or the ad hoc subcommittee to make the determination of which date it'll be.
Okay. Thank you. Vice Chair Delaney.
Yes, I was just wanted to make a motion that if you need a backup date, I'd love to suggest February 22nd, which is a Tuesday. I think Pastor said that on Wednesday it was kind of a bad day for some people. So my motion would be as a backup February 22nd.
I second that motion.
Okay, I
was
know
on the
usually there's
floor.
discussion. I know that Mr. Wilson had his hand up. Is there a comment you'd like to make regarding that?
No.
Okay, and I know that there's a motion on the floor. My recollection was his preference was actually Thursday, but I could be wrong.
Oh,
Because I believe he said Wednesday was Bible study. And
that's fine.
possibly I'm wrong.
No,
I
that, I could change my motion to the 24th. Thursday, the 24th.
Sherry, we already have a motion though in a second. So then
Wait,
do we just ask her to
wait,
amend her
wait,
motion? I'm sorry, Ms. Domingos.
Sorry, can we just stick with, I think it's getting really confusing.
Right,
Can we
that's what I'm
please
trying to
stick with
clarify.
the 22nd?
So Ms. Hoffman, if there's a motion on the table that's been seconded and the mover would like to amend the motion, would they just amend it?
Correct, as long as there's no objection, that would be the new motion.
So then I hear Vice Chair Delaney amending her motion to make the, I guess the,
Backup.
right, for February, I'm sorry, what was the date again?
24
24th as an alternative date. And then
at 5.
this,
Should I say that at 5:30 p.m.? Is that
that's fine if that's your motion.
sufficient? Okay.
Is it,
And
I object.
Oh.
Okay, so you're just not seconding then. And then I'll open it to discussion and then we'll see if there's a second. So Ms. Domingos, did you have a further comment more than I object?
Yeah, I just wanted to stick with the 22nd. Thursdays are not good days.
Okay, so what would happen is that we would have to have a second for the motion that's already on the table, and then we'd have to vote on it. And if it doesn't pass, then you can make another motion for whatever day suits you, if that's.
Can I
what we're
revise
discussing.
my revision? Just to make it easy?
I think there can be a second amended.
Okay, I'll do a
If you-
second amendment, moving it back to the 22nd. There you go. At
Are you
5:30.
sure?
Sure, why not? I was just, either day is fine with me, so whatever.
Okay. So there's a second amended motion, moving it back to February 22nd at 5:30. Is that your
Correct.
motion, Vice Chair Delaney? Okay. And I believe seconded by Ms. Domingos?
Yes,
Okay. Mr. Parker, will you please call roll?
Chair
Oh,
Young,
I'm sorry, prior to doing that, within this motion, should we ask Vice Chair Delaney as well to include the authority to have Mr. Parker set the agenda? Was that what you recommended, council?
I so move that. Yes, absolutely.
Well, that was my question to council, though. Is that
Oh.
appropriate? Thank you. And then are you still agreeable to your second, Ms. Domingos, with that amendment?
to set the agenda, no, my comment to that was if I didn't know how he was gonna set the agenda with the board, or if there was gonna be community input called upon to, there was some technical term that was used. I just can't remember it right now.
Okay, well, I don't want to make this more difficult than needed. I believe the second motion is now there for giving Paul the authority to set the agenda for the alternative date. So I understand Ms. Domingos is rescinding her second on that motion. Is that correct?
No, I just need clarification. I'm
Okay.
not rescinding.
Okay, I understand. So,
May I suggest that we vote on the date, the motion on the table, and then if any authority needs to be given to Mr. Parker or the subcommittee, that could be done afterwards.
I would, except do we need to amend the language of the second amended motion then? Because now she has included the language regarding providing Mr. Parker with the authority to set the agenda for the alternative date.
Susan, I was just mirroring what the other motion was for the other date, the beginning, the February, was it 1st?
Okay, that's not what
Instructing him
was
to do the
said.
same
and
thing that
so
he was
That's why
doing
I'm just trying to make it
for
clear.
them.
So I guess for the record then, my understanding of what the second amended motion would be, just moving it back. Let's just vote on the date and time for being February 22nd at 5:30 with Ms. Domingos seconding it. And then Mr. Parker, will you just call roll, please, on that alone?
Chair Youngflesh,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delaney,
Yes.
Ms. Domingos,
Yes.
Ms. Kink,
yes,
Ms. Pintar,
Yes.
Mr. Ware,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Now we can move on to the second part of the discussion, which was Ms. Domingos's request for clarification. And so with that, I think that we can either, as stated before, we could either give Paul the authority to work with the ad hoc committee and then set the agenda. Or in the alternative, we can just go ahead and do it right now. But my concern with doing it right now is that we wouldn't have possibly all the input that we need from other parties. And then Vice Chair Delaney and then Ms. Domingos. Vice Chair Delaney.
I'd like to make a motion that we give Paul the authority to set the agenda, working with the ad hoc committee tomorrow to set that agenda.
I'll second it.
Oh, that was seconded by Ms. Pintar, and I believe we still have discussion on this. Ms. Domingos, did you have a comment regarding that motion, or do you want to wait till after the motion's done?
I just wanted to second that motion.
Oh, okay. Seconded by Ms. Pintar. Mr. Parker, can you please call roll?
Chair Youngflesh,
Yes.
Vice Chair Delaney,
Yes.
Ms. Domingos,
Yes.
Ms. Kink,
yes,
Ms. Pintar,
Yes.
Mr. Ware,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Do we have anything else we need to discuss on this topic tonight? No. Okay. Well, technically, we probably would need a motion to adjourn, but I don't think we really need to do that here. So thank you, everyone, for participating, and I look forward to seeing what the agenda looks like.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right.